Hey, 5th grade, this is Ms. Gioka with your flipped math lesson for today, 11-2. Today's objective is I can multiply whole numbers and fractions. So here's our practice problem. You need 3/4 of a cup of orange juice to make 1 batch of fruit punch. How many cups will you need to make 8 batches of fruit punch? So my purpose is to find out, well, how much will I need to make 8 batches? And my important information is I'll need 3/4 cup of orange juice to make 1 batch. And how much will I need then to make 8 batches? So you can see I'm going to be multiplying 8 times 3/4, and that's what I'm going to teach you how to do today. Multiplying a whole number times a fraction. Well, you know that multiplication is the same as repeated addition. So what I could do is I could be adding 3/4 8 different times and just add that all up. So my denominator will still be 4, and then I'll add 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 and so on, which will equal 24. Then I can simplify that, and 24 divided by 4 is 6. So that's my answer. I'm going to need 6 cups of orange juice to make 8 batches of fruit punch. Now, I could use a repeated addition, but that takes a long time. So we're going to learn how to use multiplication. To find 8 times 3/4, first you multiply, then you simplify. And it's really quite easy. So every whole number, whether it's 8 or 2 or 7 or 5, is really a fraction, because all numbers can be turned into fractions. What you do is you put your division or your fraction bar, your division bar, and then every whole number is really a fraction over 1. Because we know that like 1 equals 1. We know that 2 halves equals 1, and 3/3 equals 1. Well, if I have 8 of those, excuse me, trying to get rid of that. If I have 8 first, that's really 8 being divided by 1, right? And 8 divided by 1 is still 8. It's just like we talked about yesterday, that a fraction is really just fancy division. So every one of these numbers, or whole number, is really a fraction over 1. Okay? All whole numbers are. So it doesn't matter what whole number you have. You could have 100 over 1, 1,000,000 over 1. It still equals 100 or 1,000,000, but each whole number is really a fraction over 1. And I'm going to multiply that times my other number, 3/4. So I'm going to multiply 8 times 3/4. Okay? What I do is, instead of what we do with addition and subtraction, where we have to figure out common denominators, we just go ahead and we multiply the top number times the bottom number. So I'm going to multiply these top numbers together and these bottom numbers together. 8 times 3 is 24, and 4 times 1 is 4. Then I can simplify. So I multiplied, now I simplify, and 24 divided by 4 is 6. And that gives me my answer. Okay, so let's practice with a few. 1/7 of 14. Every time you see this word of, I want you to think multiply, because that's your clue word. 1/7 of 14. And remember, every whole number can go over 1. Then I can multiply the top numbers and multiply the bottom numbers. So I'm going to multiply 1 times 14, and I'm going to multiply 7 times 1. 1 times 14 is 14, 7 times 1 is 7. Now I have 14 being divided by 7, and that equals 2. Okay, see how easy this is? I think this is much easier than adding and subtracting. 3/7 of 14. Remember, when you see the of, you're going to think of multiply. So I've got 3/7 times 14, which is really 14 over 1. And then I can rewrite it 3 times 14. On the top, we multiply the top numbers, and then we multiply the bottom numbers. 7 times 1. 3 times 14 is not a number that I know just off the top of my head, so I'll just do multiplication over here to the side. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, 1, 3, 4. 42. Okay, so now I've got 42. And then 7 times 1 is 7. Whoops, 42. Now I've got 42 over 7, which is fancy division. 42 being divided by 7, that equals 6. Let's try another one. 25 times 1/5. So I've got 25 over 1 times 1/5, and I can rewrite it multiplying the top numbers, multiplying the bottom numbers, and then I can multiply them. 25 times 1 is 25. 1 times 5 is 5. Now I've got my fancy division here. 25 being divided by 5 is 5. Oh, see how easy that is? I love it. All right, 25 times 4/5. Let's try this one. So I've got 25, which is really the same thing, 25 over 1. So I've got 25 times 4 over 1 times 5. And rewrite it. 25, I think of quarters, and if I had 4 quarters, I'd have a dollar, which equals 100 cents. And 1 times 5 is 5. Now I'm going to divide 100 divided by 5, and that equals 20. Now I'm thinking of nickels. How many nickels in a dollar? There's 20. All right, your turn. Let's see how you do. 1/4 of 40. Okay, if you rewrote it, then you would eventually end up with 40 over 4, and 40 being divided by 4 equals 10. Try number 2. 1/3 of 15. Okay, if you rewrite it, then you will eventually get to 15 over 3, which is fancy division for 15 divided by 3, and that equals 5. Number 3, 1/5 of 40. Okay, if you rewrite it, then eventually you will get to 40 over 5, which is fancy division. 40 divided by 5 equals 8. Number 4, 1/7 of 28. Okay, and if you follow division through, then eventually you will get to 28 divided by 7, which equals 4. Number 5, 2/9 of 90. Okay, if you follow the multiplication over, then you get 180 divided by 9, and 18 divided by 9 is 2, and then annex to 0, you get 20. Okay, number 6, 2/5 of 40. Okay, if you follow the multiplication through, then eventually you get to 80 over 5, and that's going to equal 80 divided by 5, which will equal 16. Number 7. Okay, if you follow the multiplication through, then you eventually get to 50 over 2, which is 50 divided by 2, and 50 divided by 2 is 25. Number 8, 5/8 of 32. If you followed the multiplication through, you get 160 over 8. And then I'm going to divide 160 divided by 8, and I know 16 divided by 8 is 2, and then I annex the 0, so my answer is 20. Number 9, 18 times 2/9. Okay, if you follow the multiplication through, you get to 36 over 9, and that's fancy division for 36 divided by 9, and that equals 4. Number 10, 5/8 times 16. Okay, follow the multiplication through, and that gives you 80 over 8, which is fancy division for 80 divided by 8. 80 divided by 8 is 10. Number 11, 3/5 minus 3/10 times 30. Get more complicated today. Okay, I'm going to remember whoops, I'm going to use what I remember from Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally and start with the parentheses and subtract 3/5 minus 3/10, and I notice they have different denominators, so I need to change that for addition and subtraction. So I'm going to change the 5 to 10 by multiplying by 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top, so I change the 3 and I change it to 6. So now I have 6/10 minus 3/10. 6/10 minus 3/10. Oops, sorry, I made some mistakes here. Let's see. 6/10 minus 3/10 will be 3/10. See, even teachers make mistakes. And now I have 3/10 times 30. So I'm going to take that 3 and put over 1. 3 times 30 over 10 times 1, and that's going to equal 90 over 10. And 90 divided by 10 is 9. So that'll be my final answer. Number 12. Okay, I'm going to use what I know about Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally again and start with the parentheses. So I get 3/4 minus 1/4. This time the denominators are the same, so I don't have to change them. And 3/4 minus 1/4 equals 2/4. And I can simplify that by dividing the denominator and the numerator by 2. And when I do that, I get 1/2. So now I have 1/2 times 24. And I'm going to change that by putting 24 over 1. And I have 1 times 24 divided or over 2 times 1. So I've got 24 over 2, or 24 divided by 2, and that's going to equal 12. All right, last problem, number 13. Bailey is making cookies, and for each batch she needs 2/3 cup of sugar. How much sugar will she need if she makes 6 batches of cookies? You solve this one. Okay, you should have found it's asking you to multiply, and you need to multiply 6 times 2/3. So I'm going to have 6 times 2/3. And I know that 6 is really over 1, so now I can rewrite it. 6 times 2, multiply the numerators, then multiply the denominators. 1 times 3. 6 times 2 is 12, and 1 times 3 is 3. Then I'm going to remember this is fancy division. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So she's going to need 4 cups of sugar. All right, that's it. You are done and finished. Thanks. See you. Bye.